This happened in the summer before my first year of college. I was 18 at the time, still living at home with my older brother, Chris. Our parents were traveling abroad for work, and Chris was working night shifts at a nearby hospital. That meant I had the house mostly to myself during the week. We lived in a quiet neighborhood outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. The kind of place where people waved when they mowed their lawns, and porch lights were always on at night. Our house was a modest one-story, 2 bedrooms, 1 hallway, and a living room that opened into the backyard through a sliding glass door. Nothing fancy, but comfortable. That Thursday evening was uneventful, like most nights. I made a quick dinner, played some video games, and spent most of the time scrolling through Reddit and watching YouTube. Around 11:30 p.m., I got a text from Chris that said, "Double shift tonight. Won't be back till morning. Lock up." It was routine. I double-checked the front door, left the back door open just slightly for our dog Murphy to go in and out, and figured I'd fall asleep to a podcast, like always. Murphy was a 10-year-old golden retriever. Not exactly a guard dog, but he'd bark if someone so much as stepped on a twig outside. Just before midnight, Murphy began growling at something through the glass door. I paused the podcast and looked out into the yard. The motion light had flicked on, but I didn't see anything. No animal, no wind, no movement. Still, Murphy stayed frozen, teeth bared, fur stiff. It wasn't his usual squirrel-chasing behavior. He was focused, tense. I shut and locked the sliding door, pulled the blinds, and told him to chill out. But he kept pacing between the back door and the hallway. At one point, he stopped in front of Chris's bedroom door and stared at it like there was something or someone on the other side. That door had been shut all week. Chris didn't like anyone in his room. I stood there watching Murphy until he slowly backed away. I felt weirdly unsettled, but I chalked it up to being alone too many nights in a row and tried to distract myself. I went back to my room, shut the door, and got in bed. At some point, I must have fallen asleep. But what woke me up wasn't a dream. It was a knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on my bedroom door. I shot upright in bed. For a second, I thought I was imagining it. Then came another knock. Softer this time, but long, drawn out. Like whoever was on the other side wanted me to answer. Murphy wasn't in the room. I'd left the door shut, and he usually stayed out. I whispered, "Chris?" but got no reply. Then I remembered he was working the night shift. He wasn't supposed to be home. I picked up my phone and checked the time, 2:17 a.m. I immediately texted him, "Hey, are you home?" No response. I didn't hear any footsteps, no retreating sounds down the hallway, just silence. Then I heard something that made my stomach twist. Chris's bedroom door, the one that had been closed for days, creaked open. Very slowly, like someone was trying not to be heard. I stayed locked in my room the rest of the night, gripping the small pocket knife I kept in my nightstand. I didn't sleep. I just sat there with the lights on, listening for the slightest sound. Around 5:45 a.m., I finally heard Murphy scratch at the door and whine. I opened it cautiously. He trotted in like nothing had happened, curled up on my rug, and went to sleep. When the sun came up, I did a walkthrough of the house. Nothing seemed out of place at first, but then I noticed a few strange things. Chris's door was now wide open. A laundry basket had been tipped over inside. In the kitchen, a glass I hadn't used was in the sink, wet like someone had rinsed it. And on the coffee table in the living room, there was a half-eaten granola bar still in the wrapper. I hadn't eaten one of those in days. I called Chris as soon as I could. He picked up on the second ring, sounding exhausted. I asked him if he'd come home last night. Maybe forgot something? He said no. Swore he hadn't left the hospital. Didn't even get a break during his shift. I told him about the knocks, about the door creaking open. He paused for a second, then tried to laugh it off. Said I probably had a nightmare. Maybe I sleepwalked. But I knew what I'd heard. I knew I was awake. Later that afternoon, I went into Chris's room to see if maybe Murphy had knocked the laundry over. That's when I noticed the closet. The door was cracked open. Chris's closet always jammed when it shut, and he kept it closed tight. Curious, I opened it fully. There were muddy, bare footprints inside. Not shoe prints, bare feet. And they were facing inward. Like someone had been standing silently, pressed against the back wall. I backed away. Something in my gut told me to check the vent. At the bottom of the closet wall was a small square air vent. It had been unscrewed, and behind it was a narrow opening, just big enough for someone to crawl through. Our attic access was behind that wall. I didn't even hesitate. I grabbed my dog, got in the car, and drove to a friend's house. From there, I called the police. They came out and searched the attic, and they found signs someone had been living up there. Dirty blankets, crumpled food wrappers, empty water bottles, and worst of all, a small spiral notebook filled with messy handwriting. There were scribbled notes of dates and times, short lines like "Lights out, 12:40," or "Dog bark, 2:05." On the second to last page, they found my name. Just my name, written over and over. And at the very bottom of the page, in darker ink, was one last line. "He only sleeps with the door locked." Police never found the guy. They think he got in months earlier during some renovation we'd done in the attic. Maybe through the roof access. Maybe even during the day while we were out. We had no reason to check up there. We never used it. I don't know what his plan was. He never stole anything, never hurt us. But he watched us, lived above us, ate our food, memorized our routines. And that night, when he knocked, I think he wanted to see what would happen if I left the door unlocked. I haven't lived in that house since. And now, no matter where I sleep, I always keep my door locked. This happened in the summer of 2021, during what I thought would be the highlight of my college years. My friend Devin lived in a gorgeous house tucked into the hills just outside Santa Rosa. His parents were wealthy enough to leave him alone for a full weekend while they flew out to a winery event in Napa. He decided to throw a massive party, not the kind with wild keg stands and strangers vomiting in your bathtub. More like an upscale college mixer, with a guest list, bartenders, and a rented speaker system. I wasn't even supposed to be there. See, Devin and I were close back in freshman year, but we drifted after he joined his frat, and I stuck to my art history group. I only got an invite because I happened to bump into him at a bookstore the week before. He said, "Dude, you've got to come. It'll be like old times." I showed up around 8 p.m., dressed probably more casually than the others. The backyard was glowing with fairy lights, chill music, and about 40 well-dressed college students sipping cocktails like they were at a wedding reception. I didn't feel like I fit in, but Devin spotted me and pulled me in like no time had passed. It felt good to catch up. I remember meeting a girl named Julia, who was sweet, down to earth, and laughing at all my jokes. We ended up talking on the patio for over an hour. It would have been a perfect night. Except around 10:45, something happened that still chills me to my core. Julia had gone to the bathroom, and I was standing alone near the kitchen island, pouring myself a drink. That's when I noticed a man standing just inside the front gate, right under the motion sensor light. He wasn't part of the party. He looked about mid-40s, wearing a button-up shirt, dark jeans, and holding what looked like a manila folder. He wasn't moving, just standing there, half in shadow. I pointed him out to Devin, but he shrugged and said, "Probably one of the bartender's friends. Don't stress it." But I was stressing it. The guy wasn't walking toward the house. He wasn't talking to anyone, just staring at me. Something about that look, direct but hollow, like he was looking through me, made my chest tighten. I told Devin again that something felt off. He agreed to walk out with me to say something. But by the time we stepped outside, the man was gone. I remember scanning the street. No footsteps, no car, no fading figure in the distance. Just the empty sidewalk and some light breeze. Devin made a joke about me being paranoid and headed back inside. I stayed outside a minute longer. That's when I saw it. The manila folder. Someone had slipped it into the mailbox next to the gate. My curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. Inside were 3 printed photos, black and white, all of them of me. One was from earlier that night, me standing in the kitchen, drink in hand. The second looked like it had been taken through my apartment window 2 days ago, me sitting on the couch. The third was the most disturbing. I was asleep in bed, facing away from the camera. The timestamp was from last week. No note, no name, no fingerprints I could see, just those 3 photos. I didn't scream. I didn't panic. I walked straight into the house, found Devin, and showed him. He thought it was a prank. He laughed until he saw the timestamp. Then he looked scared. We locked the front gate and called the cops. They said they'd send someone to check it out, but warned us it might be a prank or stalking attempt. And without a threat, there wasn't much they could do. They took the folder and left. I wanted to go home, but Julia convinced me to stay for a bit. So I sat with her near the fireplace in the living room, trying to shake off the dread. Around 1 a.m., I went to the upstairs bathroom. The party had thinned out, and people were either asleep in corners or calling Ubers. As I washed my face, I heard something outside the small bathroom window, a shuffle. I froze. Slowly, I turned off the faucet, leaned toward the window, and listened. Then I saw it, a hand. Just a hand, resting on the windowsill. The man was there, crouched below the window, waiting. I bolted out of the bathroom and ran to Devin's room, yelling his name. He and 2 other guys rushed out, and we all ran outside. But once again, the man was gone. Only this time, he left behind something worse. A small envelope taped to Devin's back door. Inside was a handwritten note. "I've been watching you longer than you know. You let me in once. You'll do it again." We checked every door, every lock. Nothing had been broken into. No alarms, no dogs barking. It was like the guy appeared and vanished at will. Devin called his parents. They told us to shut the party down immediately, so we did. People thought it was a noise complaint, but we didn't care. The cops came again, did another sweep, but found nothing. After everyone left, Devin and I stayed up the rest of the night with the lights on. We didn't talk much. What could we say? The next morning, I went home and called a locksmith. Changed every lock in my apartment. Bought security cameras. I didn't sleep properly for weeks. Julia and I talked once or twice after that, but the vibe was never the same. Something about that night ruined it. I never found out who the man was. The police never followed up. Devin's family hired private security for a few weeks, then moved the gate to the front of the property, but nothing ever came of it. To this day, I still have no idea how that man got those photos of me, or how he knew my name, because I never said it out loud that night. But when we played back the security camera the following week, the one Devin had pointed at the backyard just for fun, we caught 5 seconds of footage around 2 a.m. There was the man, standing outside the glass sliding door, watching me and Julia. And as the sound barely picked up over the music, we heard him whisper, "I know you, Jamie. I always have."